Who the Wild Things Are with Ryan McGuire.
You gotta listen to your body.
Oh my God, maybe, I could get out there, I could do this.
Let's take a ride, find your wild side, real stories, see with your own eyes.
It's so beautiful.
I'm gonna have the best time out here.
Yeah, I was in tears. I was just like, that's the best, man.
Welcome back, everybody. Episode 20 of Who the Wild Things Are. Thank you guys so much for joining. Today I have a special request for you on episode number 20. Given that it's a big milestone for us, I would love to hear one moment that sticks out to you guys. So one moment that was memorable or inspirational or informational, something that stuck out to you from one of the last 20 episodes. It would be really cool to see what this community comes up with. I'd love to share some of my favorite moments as well and get you all acquainted into that community. So today, like I said, it's a very special episode. We have our first returning guest on the show, which is Donny Dust. Donnie is a friend of mine and an incredible skills practitioner. He's been traveling the world filming a couple new shows, so hopefully we'll get to hear a little bit about those today. And I can say his skill to humility level is like, that ratio is off the charts. He does everything so effortlessly without bragging. He's an incredibly impressive human being, and he follows his priorities with extreme passion. So, super stoked that you guys are on here with me tonight, and we'll get him on here. Donnie, what's up, my man?
Hey, Paso amigo, how are you?
How are you, dude?
Living life. Let me fix this a little bit. There
Look at that collection you got behind you.
Yeah, just, you know how it is.
I do know how it is.
You've seen the wall of stuff, so it's just one of those things, man. How have you been?
Everything's good on my side. I got some fresh hand drill blisters, so it means, life is normal.
Yeah, man, it's been fun following your progress and all of the, the races and the different challenges that you've been doing as far as like obstacle course races and all that. The Spartan, you took third, man, right?
Second in the most recent one, yeah.
And that's I was like, look at this. This is pretty awesome, man. You should be proud of that. I'm proud for you, man.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I've heard you mention this idea of the first skill and how flintknapping for you is like your first skill, and that's where you started and you built all your skills from there. I've really thought about like fitness and obstacle course racing and my movement through the country as being kind of my first skill, because I didn't always have that ability. Believe it or not, I was kind of a bigger kid. I wasn't able to move very fast. I was pretty slow, and now that's a big part of my life. So.
Right on, man. Yeah, I dig that. I think that there's a lot of truth to that, being, mentally and physically, fit in order to do a lot of these outdoor adventures. You have to be fit. You know what I mean? You're a perfect example of that. I mean, between your snow time activities and all the, the different challenges you're running, and then just your overall lifestyle. I think I saw you you said, I'm going to carry a rock to the top of the hill. And then you're like, hey, I found a second rock. It was just 2 rocks to the top. And I'm like, that's what I like to call like leading by example. You know what I mean? You can preach one thing, but you also have to lead by that example. And I think you're a good example. So I'm humbled to be here sharing this experience with you, man. So I appreciate it.
Oh, dude, thank you so much. I could say the exact same about you. And I know you just got back from a hunter-gatherer, and you didn't really explicitly say it, but I could see there was some time in the pain cave in that trip. I could tell you guys had gone through it, like when you came out.
Yeah, it was true Colorado fashion. We kind of went in on one day, and then on our day out, we just started getting dumped on with snow. And, this trip was kind of an important one for the guys that attended, because it was a lot of self-exploration. We did skills, but I wanted them to be out on their own. And we did some group things, but I thought it was important, and I'm trying to incorporate that in a lot of my classes where, if you're all put together in a large group, you can always kind of look off of other people and figure out what to do. So I just kind of wanted to give them a little bit more space, a little bit more freedom. And then as they might, be having troubles with bow drill or you know, twisting cordage, something like that. I wanted them to work through those problems, because I think sometimes we get the solutions too easy, and I think we can kind of discover those solutions on our own through trial and error and kind of get a better return on those actual skills. So, but you know, Colorado threw some snow at us. No, it's nothing different, you know. I mean, this is normal. It's 70 degrees, and the next day it's, you know, 30 degrees, and the snow's coming down. So that was a good group.
Yeah, I've heard that that phrase, I think kind of out of the Tom Brown school. They use this term coyote teacher, which basically means I'll tell you what you're supposed to do, but I'm not going to tell you how to do it. And I think there's like a big mix there, right? It's like you don't want to give people the answers too quick, because they don't get that wheels turning. You don't get the process of figuring it out. And also you kind of remove any ability to be creative, because you give them the process beforehand. Like maybe their solution is going to be better than whatever you figured out. Like how many times have you been in a class where you learned from a student doing something completely different?
Absolutely. It's like the old saying, a way, not necessarily the way. And I think just this last class, they had that opportunity. I mean, we came together, we did some fireside chats, and we discussed different things, you know, and then I just enjoyed sending them out. You know, there was, you know, and I had an 18-year-old all the way up to a 63-year-old, from doctors, pilots, a professional hobo, a collegiate athlete, pitcher, an IT guy, and a solar engineer. So there was like a whole spectrum, but they just went and did it, and it was good. It was a good experience. It was awesome.
That's exciting.
Yeah, man.
And so, you know, before we dive into this too deep, anybody that's kind of living under a rock, even more so than you live under rocks, give them just like a quick, brief overview. Who is Donny Dust? What does Donnie Dust do?
Yeah, so my name is Donny Dust, and I live right outside of Boulder, Colorado, and I run a school here called Paleo Track Survival, and it's kind of a wilderness self-reliance, primitive skills, survival, you know, school. It kind of hits on all kind of different venues of kind of wilderness exploration. Written a couple books, been on a couple shows, but yeah, I just think I'm just an adventurer at heart. You know, I'm flintknapping's my love in life. You know, I love breaking stone. We've broken stone, and it's just one of those things where, you know, I like the mentality where you can no more, carry less, and stone blades and, you know, those real primitive tools are really kind of my focus in a lot of you know, personal adventures. So yeah.
So steel exists, you know, compound bows exist, rifles exist. Why are primitive tools so important to you when there's an easier route?
Yeah, I think for me personally, when employing certain primitive technologies, it slows me down, and it makes me kind of really appreciate the finite details when, you know, knapping a stone knife, and why you're putting certain flake scars along the edge, and what that's going to do when you're shaping wood, using, you know, different bows, right? So I was just down in the Amazon, and I had to build a bow in the bush with natural cordage and hunt with it. And I think knowing and having those knowledge, skills, and abilities, and being able to do that, I wasn't in a rush to make the bow, so I wanted to enjoy the process of making the bow and actually taking game. So I think there's just kind of a slowdown. It's kind of a natural way of just bringing yourself into, what am I doing? Why am I doing it? And how can I make this really beneficial? Because, I mean, we use a steel knife. You can carve through wood and be like, oh, I messed up. Let me go get another piece. But it's different when you're using stone tools or kind of some of the ancient technologies. You have to be very methodical. It's more artistic. It's like a dance. You just kind of slowly move back and forth, understanding why you're doing things, and I just really resonate with that.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's very well said. And one thing I have noticed is you've gained a ton of popularity for your videos on TikTok. And I've kind of seen that develop from the beginning, where, you know, you were just starting to make those videos. I don't even know if I knew what TikTok was when we were first talking about it. And then now it's like you've got millions and millions of followers. And one thing I think that gets missed in translation is the time and the patience that you're putting into these projects. It's like a 2-minute video, and you're like, oh, that looked like he, you know, put some effort into that. But they don't realize it took you 5 hours to make this glorious knife blade. So
That's one of those things that I wish, I could convey that in some of those videos. I mean, I try to leave it in comments because they always ask, how long did it take? And I'm like, oh, 3 days, 5 hours. But it kind of gives a false word picture to what actually happens. But I think people that take that next step and say, all right, he just made this, I'm going to go make this. I usually get some comments like, I've been trying for 3 days and I can't get it, or I've had a lot of success. They kind of understand a little bit more in depth on, what it takes, just to craft some of those things. It's fun,
Yeah.
It's another way of really connecting to a larger audience and saying, look, you don't need all this stuff. You can just use your creativity and make everything you need.
Yeah, and I think you do a great job at that. It's very interesting how you became like the yeah guy, where it's like I knew Donnie as Donnie, and then they're like, wait, is that the yeah guy? Like I've had friends tell me like, oh, you're talking to the yeah guy on your Instagram? I'm like, yeah, the yeah guy.
Yeah, that's my it's my catchphrase. Obviously I didn't do that good in high school English where I just say yeah to so much stuff, but yeah, that's what it's turned into. They ask a question, can you build this? I say yeah, and I build it. And I've actually found quite a bit of kind of enjoyment in certain things because they actually challenge me with a lot of builds, like like the Macahuatl, that Aztec club, that Aztec sword. I never built one of those before, but I was like, all right, know what it looks like. I know the tools I need to build it, between, a pump drill, some blades. It's in the head. Let's just go with it. And yeah, before you know it, I got a Macahuatl hanging up on my wall for kind of, home defense. But that's one of the biggest things I enjoy is like the very unique challenges they throw my way, and everything from a samurai sword to body armor to a bone sword to a Macahuatl. I mean, why not?
Yeah, it's super cool. And the Macahuatl, I saw that one. I think I saw it on your TikTok, and what I thought was so difficult about it was the way you have to fasten or adhere the blades into the wood, because it's not like you can haft it. You can't wrap sinew into the Macahuatl like you can an arrow. So I was very impressed with the creation of that. I was like, wow, that takes some serious skill.
I appreciate it. Yeah, there was a lot of obsidian slices in my hands trying to glue things in, and I think it's just fun. I think my my boy at the time, Alden, you've met him plenty of times, but he was 11 wanting to go on it, and I said, well, if you go on it as a parent, I want to see what it's all about. Next thing you know, I just started making the videos, so it's rocking.
Yeah, he's like he was the brains behind the operation, if I'm not wrong, in the beginning.
Absolutely, yeah. It was all his desire to go on there and saying, how can I convince my father to go on there? It was all, he's a smart boy.
Right on, man.
Yeah.
Well, that's one big question I have, and I want to get to that. So I guess the first place we would start is your recent travels. You've been going all over the world for the last, 9 months or so. And I got to catch your first episode of Mud, Sweat, and Beards, which was really cool. So I guess my first question would be, how did the idea for Mud, Sweat, and Beards start? How did you and Ray decide you were going to go ahead and make the show?
Yeah, so, it kind of came end of 2019, the early phases of 2020. I just started having a conversation with a couple production companies about coming up with a different sort of survival show that can kind of highlight. There's in a lot of survival shows that exist, there's a lot of misery. There's a lot of like always constant drama and misery and just embracing the suck. And I want to be, and I thought in my mind, I'm like, that's not always the case. Like, you've been in the bush and there's some like awesome moments and like hilarious trips and falls. And the idea was kind of to capture some of those and who to bring on with that kind of same mentality and approach. And Ray was one of those guys. And it was just like, we should just create something a little bit different where, yes, there's going to be challenges, hunger, cold, all those things. But like, why not rejoice in the simplicity of like finding berries and like making a jelly out of them, or building boats and just doing, because it's fun. It's genuinely fun. And we should not always just have this like downward negative look at living in the bush and like survival, bushcraft, primitive skills, whatever you want to call it. Doesn't have to be from this like point of like, there's baboons and they're going to try and kill us, we need to make spears, It's like, let's just bring it down a notch. Let's just, I mean, you've been in the mountains and moose and bears are all around, but you're like, what's up, moose? You do you, I'll do me. We'll go about our way. Willow's a different story, but you know, it's just that approach. And I just think when people actually see it and they're out in those experiences, there's quite a few happy times and joyous moments, and we should kind of bring those to light and say, look, it's not doom and gloom.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it also sheds a light on what it takes to get to that point. There's a curve to this, like anything. In the beginning, if you're going out solo trips, or, you know, trying to do this stuff on your own without the knowledge, skills, abilities, the experience mainly, stuff's going to be really hard. I remember my first solo like it was yesterday, because it was the coldest night of my life. It was the coldest night of my life. But, you know, as you progress and you learn certain things, and you don't make that mistake a second time, or don't make this mistake a second time, you start to have a lot of fun out there. And yeah, like you said, a lot of those dangers that exist out there are things that, you know, we're well equipped to deal with. So
yeah, there's a balance to it all. And I think the idea with this show was to bring people on some pretty amazing adventures, see two guys have successes and failures, acknowledge their failures as like, look, we didn't do this, so let's, you know, adapt and kind of come a different direction. And I think, you know, just based on the feedback I've received from folks, and I mean, they like it. It's just something new, something, you know, kind of refreshing. And there it is, you know, the next episode's on Monday. We'll be down in the bayou. I won't go with too much details, but it's a pretty good episode. Yeah, you'll enjoy it, man. You'll enjoy it.
You've already seen this?
Well, I mean, fortunately I've lived it, so I kind of got that insight. But I mean, there's some really cool builds that we do. There's lots of hunting and fishing and foraging and just different things that we kind of create to create our little space of like thrival on the banks of some swampy river in the middle of the bayou. And, you know, we get eaten alive by mosquitoes, but we have a darn good time doing it. So.
Oh yeah. I think, you know, I remember us chatting about it beforehand, and you said that from the beginning. It was like, I want to have a lighthearted approach and have like people see what it's actually like in the bush, like the good times and the bad, not just dark music and suspense. And I admired that. What caught me off guard was it was funny as hell. I was on the couch like belly laughing, and we were sitting there just all laughing. I was like, I did not expect to be chuckling at you and Ray the whole time. So
yeah, but remember when you and I did that course out in the Chihuahua Desert? We laughed nonstop. I mean, like, we were always poking fun at each other. We just had a good time. And I don't think that is really captured, but everybody knows when they go camping or they go for a hike, it's just constant laughs mixed with a little bit of like, oh, clouds are coming in, we might get rain, or someone slips and falls. Like, of course you're going to laugh. Why would we not like chuckle at your friend taking a tumble down the hill? Or, I mean, there's so many funny things. And I think, you know, we just kind of were purely natural. There was no like stage lines or any of this. It was just all natural. You know, Ray says, hey, I want to give me a piggyback ride. And I'm like, okay, you know, 9 days in, I haven't had any food. I can't carry his big butt. Of course I'm going down to the ground. It's just, I mean, you know exactly what it is. It's just comical.
Yeah, that one got me good, because I figured you would like strong man up, like I got him, and then he just crashes.
I was smoked, man. You know, eating fish that's not fatty, and then just munching on that porcupine and berries and different greens. I mean, we were taking in calories, but we were definitely depleting them at a much higher rate.
And I thought the way like they showed, at least from my eyes, the hunger part, that's what it's like. It's not like instantly like fear for life, but you are definitely drained and talking slower, and things start to slow down. You're like, I'm fine, but I can't go run right now.
Exactly. Yeah, your level of energy is down, but it's just like, you know, anything. You're like, all right, I know I'm tired. We've got a shelter up. We've got a fire. We need to get food. So let's just go get some food. Let's not like, now we need to go get food and I'm going to go do this. It's like, let's just go catch some fish. We fall in the water, but like, let's go catch fish. Because I think social media, and I think everyone's guilty of it, we only really highlight the beauty, the success, and like those perfect moments. And I think this has a lot of flaws to it. Where like, you know, you build a bush lodge made of all the terrain in Alaska, and then you're walking back to dry out. It's camouflage. I'm like, where the heck am I? You know what I mean? That's 100% natural. That's 100% real. And I can tell you, I mean, we've all done it. Like, you turn around, you're like, wait a minute, where am I? You do the finger in the air, and you're like, all right, okay. You take a minute, figure it out. Then you walk.
Never lost, right where you need to be, just exploring.
That's it, man. That's the way it is. So, no, it was good. It was a good episode. I enjoyed it.
One of my biggest questions about that, this is a little bit different than alone. You guys had a camera crew. So what was the difference like with having a camera crew? And I'm curious, how close did you become like with them? Because they're your team, you know? Yeah,
we became real close with the camera crew. I mean, they were in the rain, they were in the mosquitoes, they were in the cold. We formed a tribe where, you know, if Ray and I were going to go out and walk and do something, we were like, all right, we're going to go for a hunt today. Like, show up tomorrow. Let's say we're hydrated. Make sure you guys got some good calories, like, because we're going to be moving and our stuff might be a little bit more on the fly. But I mean, I picked up a few of those cameras when they would let me, because they were like, please don't touch them. I was like, all right. But those things were like 40, 50 pounds up on their shoulder. And at one point, I mean, we were in the bayou, and I had built an atlatl, and Ray was going down a waterway, and I was mirroring him in some mud. And my cameraman followed me, Jovan, the entire way, which was pretty amazing, because, you know, I'm 6'2", probably 230 pounds. He was a lot shorter, carrying a camera, but he stayed on top of the mud while I sunk in every single step. So it's like, man, like, it's just, they were just everywhere we went. And it was one of those things where, like, you really started to look out for your camera, the field producers, like everybody that was out there embracing the elements and the potential threats. Yeah, we just became a tribe. It was one of those things, you know.
Yeah, that's awesome. I can imagine like how close you would get to somebody like that. I'm curious, do they recruit cameramen with like outdoors backgrounds? Like, have these people been in the bush before?
Yeah, so Jovan, he's done several seasons of Survivor, and then he's been working a lot in Africa, doing a lot of documentaries on the different rhinos and kind of the harvesting of ivory on different African animals. So he's kind of a documentary guy. And then this gal, Erica, she's a big documentary filmmaker and photographer. And we just wanted some folks out there that could kind of have an outdoor background and, you know, a whole array of experiences, but really kind of capture some of the things that we were doing and, you know, understand the nuances of when you pull that first chunk of flesh out of a fish and eat it, like how important that moment is, and for them to capture it. And, yeah, man, they just crushed it. I mean, crushed it. And it was awesome. They were really, really awesome.
That's very cool. One thing they pointed out in the show was the difference between your philosophy and Ray's. I won't give too much about it for folks that haven't seen it yet. But just generally, how did you guys go about deciding what you were going to bring into the episodes? Was there kind of a set amount of items, or was it just kind of whatever you decided you wanted to bring?
Yeah. So based on our items, we kind of stuck between like 6 or 7 items. And, you know, my breakdown of items were things that I could not only use once, but use twice, maybe even a third time. So, you know, in some future episodes, which everyone will see, you know, we went to the Louisiana swamp and there's no stone there. So I wanted to bring some stones and some flint knapping materials. In New Mexico, I wanted to bring a large piece of rawhide because I could do a lot of different things with that rawhide. So for me, it was kind of like, what can these things immediately solve? And then what can I do with them in multiple steps? And, you know, you kind of get a luxury in that because Ray would stick to his, you know, his knife kit, an axe, some sort of vessel to boil water. So we kind of really had some of our, you know, immediate solutions, you know, answered. But like, you know, for example, in New Mexico, I mean, you know this as well, super dry. There's all sorts of great opportunities to do friction fire. And so I'm like, we're not bringing any fire. I'm like, we'll get there. I'll get a hand drill. And like, I just happened to find this like perfect cottonwood tree, and there was great spindles out in the LZ where we landed, and before you know it, it was like cranked out a coal, fired in a few seconds, and it was like, we're golden. Even if this one goes out, like, this is the environment to do it. But in a place like Iceland, fire was a little bit more of a challenge. So in that case, I brought like a traditional flint and steel kit. So there was essences of kind of between Ray and I, a good balance of efforts. And I mean, there was times when I would use his blade to quickly carve something. And then there was times he would use one of the fire systems or one of the vessels that I brought. And we just kind of had a balance. We would do a little bit of a discussion beforehand and, but in true Donnie form, there was a blade, a blanket, a bottle, and some aspect of fire somehow incorporated, because that's just, my personal philosophy, and it worked out, man.
Wait, was it 4Bs?
4Bs, yeah. Those 4Bs. Blade, blanket, bottle, burn. I just find those to be much harder to replicate in a natural environment. So whether it was a clay pot or, a glass bottle, I just was like, let's just stick to what because even if you don't have anything outside of those, I mean, when we found all the moose bones in Alaska, I'm like, boom, these are fishing lures, spearheads, dart points, arrow points. Like, we can now have Walmart in a dead animal pile. So like, I was like, score, this is awesome,
You could do some charcoal art on that scapula. You could,
yeah, There's all sorts of things. So yeah, gear selection was one of the things we considered, but we never really had any disagreements on it. It was just like, yeah, that's cool. Yeah, let's do that. We'll figure out the rest,
Yeah, I mean, when you guys have like a total skill set that you two possess, I think there's a lot less lower level of anxiety, right? If you're going out there with, maybe some normal folks like myself, you might have to think twice about getting out in the bush.
And you would do the exact same thing. You'd be like, all right, what do I absolutely need? And then what do I want to have like more fun doing? You know what I mean? So you would adjust off of that. And the environment really dictates, you know what I mean? Like, you go to Iceland, there's no trees. Fortunately, there was a lot of driftwood. So, that allowed us to do certain things, but every environment, every situation kind of dictates.
How was it being away from your family and your dog? What kind of toll did that take on you? Because it was a pretty long filming process.
Yeah, it was a good chunk, between my boys, my girlfriend, and my dog. It was a test in certain ways, just making sure that relationships are good and good lines of communication. But they were all very supportive. They gave me a lot of like reassurance as, you're doing the right thing and go have fun, be adventurous. And, it really all worked out in the end. I think it's like they also know that lifestyle of going out for extended periods of time and kind of doing your thing, where it's like, that's what I do, that's how I live. And it wasn't anything like not in routine, I guess you could say, so.
Yeah, it was totally on brand for you. And what I've really liked to see is like this kind of transformation with you and Marissa. Now you guys are doing joint classes that you guys are offering, and kind of her transformation as an outdoors guide and instructor has been really cool to see as well.
Yeah, she's come a long way. She's dedicated a lot of time, effort, and energy to learning different plants and, the medicinal values of them. Like if you come back over here, man, like, windowsills are full of jars with different salves going. There's drying plants like everywhere, and she's just kind of found her own unique spark and interest into it. And it works well for me, because like, I came back from the Amazon and you might be able to see like right there, this entire chunk of flesh was removed from doing like a 5-hour hand drill in the Amazon. And she just mended it up in some salves. And I had some sort of parasite growing in me. She's like, drink this, because I was just drinking the water. I mean, what are you going to do? I was like, I know it's a little brackish, but I'm like, if the locals do it, I'll do it. But yeah, she just totally took care of me in a lot of different ways. So it was awesome.
Right on. Well, I need some for that guy.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to.
Yeah, well, I mean, she's got a great first aid salve. I like use it everywhere. So it's some good stuff.
Right on, man. Well, that's cool to hear. I'm interested to hear about this Amazon trip. This was Ed Stafford's show, right? First Man Out?
Yeah, it was Ed Stafford's show, First Man Out. For those that don't know, Ed Stafford walked the entire length of South America in his early 20s. It took him like 2.5 years. So this was kind of like his first return to the Amazon. And the production called me up, gave a call saying, hey, we'd really like you to come on and, be part of this. This is Ed's big thing. We kind of want to raise the level of bushcraft. We think you'd be a great competitor. And I was like, yeah, let's do this. Why would I? Yeah, let's go to the Amazon. So yeah, I went down to the Amazon and, long story short, I mean, it's going to be coming out probably in the next couple months, but we started on a river barge in the middle of the Amazon River. We jumped off, swam to the shore, and, crocodile and alligator and piranha and, all sorts of infested waters, and made our way through the jungles with just machetes. And we raced to another river. We had to swim out to a barge, and then, one of us was the first man out, won the race. So
we shall see who it was.
Yeah, for sure, man. It was a good adventure. I mean, I've always wanted to go to the Amazon, and I think maybe the week prior I was doing a podcast with somebody else, and they brought up the question, like, if there's one place you could go, where would it be? And I just happened to throw out the Amazon, and within like 48 hours, I got that call saying, we want you to go. And it was an amazing experience. I think what I found so like enjoyable was just being there, spending time in the flora and the fauna, and just, it was a whole new world and so many opportunities. And I really didn't want to leave, to be honest with you. It was awesome. It was really awesome.
Very cool. What was the biggest surprise? Like, because I think in America we have this vision of what the Amazon is. What was your biggest surprise when you actually got your feet on the ground?
Yeah, I think really the biggest surprise was how wet I was for the entire time we were racing. I mean, even drying out and building a fire, I was just wet all the time. And I think people might have the idea, like, oh, you could find ways of getting dry, but the rains just, they come and they stop, they come and they stop, and then you're jumping in some water system to swim across, like a a little pond or a lake. I was just wet the entire time, which was a little bit different being in Colorado or down in the Chihuahua or New Mexico. You have a lot of dry materials, but just being wet, I think, was like something I wasn't used to. So skin started to peel away, and I got some weird rashes. But I think bottom line, I walked out of there with a real deep appreciation for that overall area. And then I just really came across some really great indigenous people there that I was fortunate enough to spend a couple days learning from them, making just beautiful ropes and just everything. I was like, I need more of this. I need more of this. I don't want it to end. And it was an amazing time, man. Really amazing time.
Yeah, and those people, they're global treasure. It's a place that's extremely at risk in terms of losing culture, losing environment. So that's definitely a place that we got to focus on protecting.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It's a good history there. It really is. I feel very fortunate to experience it in that raw form, and hope to return down there pretty soon.
Right on. Well, it seems like moving on through your next adventures, you're going to be teaching some more skills classes. Why is teaching and passing on these skills so important to you?
Yeah, I think, for me to convey some of these ancient skills, whether it's kind of a modern approach to survival or kind of an ancient sort of approach, I really think it's one of those kind of traditional ways of getting people to understand that they are capable. They're capable outside of their house. They're capable outside of all the modern life that exists. And the natural world, as overwhelming as it can be at times, can also be a pretty rewarding place. And I think when people go out and they kind of let loose and they craft a bow drill and they see a little bit of smoke coming from an ember, and they just realize that old saying of rubbing two sticks together, they just did that and just made a fire. And like the excitement, the joy, the like, I can't believe I just did this. I think I enjoy seeing that in a lot of those folks. And that's like the biggest reward, is like seeing that, someone popping off a beautiful flake and then shaping it into an arrow point. It's those little things that I just find to be really rewarding for me. And then I also believe people want to do it. They want to get outside. They want to experience these things, but sometimes they just really don't know where to start. And I think if I can be a starting point, maybe a midpoint or even an ending point, but just a point in their kind of personal journey, their personal growth in the outdoors. And I think that's kind of why, because it's not about being, you don't need to be showy, you don't need to be anything. You just be humble and like appreciate everything the natural world offers and bring people into that fold and, you know, just roll with it. I mean, why do you do it?
That's a good question. I think part of the reason when I'm in the bush, I feel like a deep remembering. I feel like a lot of the skills that I practice are things that are already inside of me. It's just like learning to hone them, whether it's, running without food and water, or flintknapping, or friction fire, especially is one where it's like, you see a cartoon of cavemen dancing around a fire because they're super stoked. Well, when I made a bow drill fire like 30 minutes ago, I do the same thing. Literally, it's just, that's how it feels like inside when you make a bow drill fire. You're like, this is so exciting. So I feel like this deep sort of remembering when I practice those skills.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of truth to that. And I think people want that, but they don't know where to go, or they don't know how to get started. I think it's people like myself and yourself and all the other practitioners out there that are like, we'll show you. Come on, show you. And the next time you go out and do something on your own, maybe you just feel a little bit more confident, or you feel a little bit, deeper connection, or just any one of those personal things that they're out there to kind of discover, they can come across and, experience.
Yeah, I think that's connection's another big one, and it's a really good place to start with plants. I think like there's so many people who really like hiking, and then once you turn them on to learning just a couple plants, let's call it 3 or 4 in your local area, and then you see that connection when they go out and they recognize it and they send you a picture and like, hey, that plant you showed me, it's on this trail that I always hike, and now I'm eating it, I'm picking it up, and people are looking at me weird. And you just have like a little bit more connection to the hike rather than just walking around. Now you're interacting with the environment, and there's another level of like intimacy with the world around you at that point.
Yeah, man, for sure. A lot of truth to that.
So one question I like to ask teachers is, who is your ideal student, right? What do you look for, or not necessarily look for, what are you happy to see in a student?
Yeah, I think it's funny. I experienced this last class. There was a couple students that the smallest things were just, what? You can take this and make rope? Holy, I did not like those ones that are just seeing it for the first time, or like super excited about some of the things that we, maybe just do routinely, like reverse wrapping cordage or pulling the bark off willow, or just any of those things. They just get super excited. And I think when I see that, I know this person is like a sponge. They're here to just take it all in and really kind of learn everything. And then I also like to see the students that, come in there and they have a little bit of working knowledge and take what they have and say, you know what, I've done a few bow drills, I've had successes, I have failures, but I really also just want to learn another way. So it's kind of like both spectrums, those that have some experience, those that have none, but they're both willing to kind of shed the bravado and kind of put down the egos and say, this is awesome, this is exciting, I'm super excited, and I just want to learn. I think those ones that are hungry for kind of learning those kind of unique details, and those are the ones that I personally thrive off of that. When it's like, man, when they're excited, I'm like, I'm excited too. Like, you just did a bow drill, bro. You know how awesome that is? Like, you should be excited. You just went down a 50,000-year-old kind of like old history roadmap here. Look what you just did. You just made a stone point. Like, the world has opened. Like, I get excited off that. And it feeds me. It's like a fire. It really is.
Absolutely. Yeah. The ones that are super curious, it's like you explain like this much because you think that's what you should explain as an instructor. And then they're like, but what about like 3 levels further? What about like this, this, and this? I'm like, your wheels are turning. Let's go into that. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, I think that's just that one thing where I kind of identify that as, it's not necessarily that they're 100% disconnected. There's still kind of a curiosity there, but they're finding those connection points, the physical, emotional, and mental and primal connection points to the natural world through bow drill, or just kind of deep diving a little bit. Like, they're like, all right, I'm going full force into this. I'm not going to hold back. And, they do that. I get excited. Everyone just gets excited. We're like, well, let's do it. Like, let's go track animals for the next 4 hours. And when they finally see the squirrel in the tree that they've been tracking, or the mule deer, they're like, holy cow. You're like, yeah, man, this is what it's about, you know? So,
Yeah. What's your favorite class to teach?
oh man, so I have two. I really enjoy, flint knapping classes. That's just the one thing that it gets me, like, because it's such an old skill. And I think when people come to kind of a class and they see themselves being able to produce certain tools, they get excited. And then the one that most people probably won't expect me to say is land navigation. Like, land navigation, from my time in the military to when I was younger, I'm a lover of maps, and I love doing, land nav with map and compass and natural land navigation, to where, the handful of land nav classes I run, I think it's so much fun, because there's a little bit of science to it. There's reading maps, it's taking one thing, applying it to another, following an azimuth, getting to a point, and then being like, I just did this. I went over, 900 meters. I hit these different, waypoints, and now I'm exactly where I need to be. Like, this is awesome. And I think that is like one of those things that when I see people coming back from a land nav class and they've got 8 or 9 points that they've definitely found based off the markers, I just enjoy that one, because it's kind of like the flip side of kind of like primitive skills. It's more, a little bit more high tech, but I mean, I'm a land nav guy, and I don't do a lot of land nav in my personal adventures, but man, I love teaching it. It's so much fun.
And land nav is one of those things that you can go so deep into. Like, it can be very practical. Like, there's a baseline knowledge that's really good for every hiker or backpacker to know, like red fat in the shore, true north, magnetic north, and figuring out, your map's orientation versus the macro markers around you. Like, that is very good knowledge. And there's people that are way further ahead than I am in this study. Like, there is a lot to learn in land nav, and you can go down this rabbit hole and study for years.
Oh yeah, it's truly endless. I mean, the natural side and the high tech side. I just know, like, my time in the Marine Corps when I was a teenager, like, GPSs weren't a thing, so you had to read a map in certain ways. And on the military side, like, that's down to like 1 meter for an extraction, or just everything and anything was so macro down to the very micro. You're like, I can't believe I just went from this large map of this country down to the single meter to show where, X, Y, and Z is. I find that so fascinating. And I mean, I mean, the maps, I love maps. It's just, it's like, oh man, I love maps. So it's pretty good.
It's a really cool thing too. And one thing I do to illustrate to people is, like, so small mistakes on a map, because it's 1/24,000th of the actual world around you, is a big mistake in real life. And so much to the point that you really, in the pirate ship, they put their finger on the map and they're like, this is where it is. But I'm like, that finger is the size of 2 football fields. So let's take a little piece of grass and point at things, because that is 2 football fields right there,
Yeah, that's so true. So very true. Yeah. That's good.
So one question that I don't think I actually have ever asked this, and it popped up in my head earlier today, was, what is the longest time that you have consecutively been in the bush?
Longest time, 62 days in the Australian outback. When I was 20, I was in the military, and I went on leave, and I didn't really tell anyone. Well, I told my unit where I was going, but I didn't tell my folks. So if they're going to watch this, I'll probably be a little upset. But yeah, I saved up a bunch of leave. We had just gone to Australia for kind of a unit deployment, and I just wanted to go back and go explore. So if you know where Townsville, Australia is, basically went back to Townsville. It's up on like the north kind of eastern side, and just started walking. Went like 30 days out and turned around and came 30 days back. So that was a good one, man. I was really young and dumb and did not have the the knowledge, skills, and abilities today. I was physically super fit, young Marine. It's all up here, and it's like, you can do this. But yeah, there were some unique experiences with caves and snakes and running out of water, and it was a pretty good adventure. Saw a lot of wild horses. Oh man, it was a good time.
Some serious ground truth, I'm sure, on that adventure.
Yeah, it was very, very impactful to the point where it was like, I didn't think I was going to die at certain points, but you know, you just venture out and say, all right, I want to go do this. You got the time, you just go, you know? And I think that has really, you know, kind of been an overlay in a lot of the things that I've done out, you know, in Colorado or just different places, whether it's been through something for TV or something of, you know, on my own. I'm currently in kind of discussions to go down to my New Mexico land, build a pit house and a pit smoker, and live down there for a couple months, maybe in the end of fall, into those first phases of winter as a kind of a personal experience, and do some of my own filming and documenting, and kind of go in a more traditional route in that approach. But yeah, man, I think I like to think that the days spent are really based on, you know, what you're looking to obtain. If you're looking to obtain just a sense of freedom, well, you can spend 3 days doing that. If you're looking to challenge yourself for a long-term living things, I mean, maybe per that person, it could be a week. But I think it's like, you know, for runners, you're a runner. Sometimes you just run, right? You're not worried about the miles. You're more worried about what this run at this time means to me and kind of what you're getting from it. So I think that's kind of how, after that long trip and, you know, a couple other, you know, 20 days here, 30 days here, I kind of turned into, it was like, all right, you need to focus on why this is important to you, not necessarily hitting a, you know, a 30-day mark or anything like that. But I think I just kind of came as I got older, got a little bit bruised, banged up, but.
So you mentioned your New Mexico place. Where are you spending most of your time when you're not like out and about traveling overseas or in the Amazon? Where are you spending your time stateside? And, you know, what is it about those environments that brings you back to those places?
Yeah, so I think when I'm not, you know, traveling, or when I was kind of saw, you know, say dad duty, when I'm on, you know, for dad duty, I got lacrosse practices and school pickups. I like to get down to the Chihuahua out north of Terlingua, which is in Texas, and then the land that I have out in New Mexico. And it's just, they're both kind of like one's a high desert region, and then one is kind of a much lower desert, it's Chihuahua Desert. But I've always kind of been drawn to the desert environments. I think it just takes a lot of guesswork out of the different things and different, you know, flora and fauna that exists there. Like if it doesn't exist, it doesn't matter how far you walk, it's very unlikely you're going to find it. So you really just have to use what is there to, you know, ultimately thrive. And I think both of those environments pose different challenges, from water and food to intense heat, where, you know, you can just head down there and just burn to a crisp, and then one day you find like a rat or a rabbit, and you're like, yes, the game has changed, you know, I'm eating a rat, this is a good day. It's that sort of, you know, kind of approach, if you will. And even on, like, you know, Mud, Sweat, and Beards, we went to New Mexico, and it was a similar environment, but very different in ways. And I think knowing that it's so vast and expansive that you can walk at distance and find different things, but when you're like in the Chihuahua Desert, like you've seen, there's not a lot. There's some stuff, but there's not a lot. And I just find it fascinating that people have lived there for thousands of years, and I want to experience that same sort of thing.
Yeah, this is from the Chihuahua Desert right here. It's just a little, I did a test on wet yucca versus dry yucca to see like how much water it'll retain if you re-wet it. What's the difference in the strength and the fibers and such? So that's literally from that trip. So
nice. I gotta show you this. This was one of the this is from the Amazon, and it's called Mata Mata, and this is my new favorite plant in the world. It is by far the best cordage material. I mean, I made bowstrings at a thinner diameter, like an actual bowstring diameter. And it comes from this tree, and it's so unique where you can make a small slice in it, pull the bark off. You can pull it all the way around the tree, and it doesn't die. It grows back super, super quick. And it comes off in huge sheets. And it's strong enough that I, you know, was building boats, making bowstrings, making backpack straps. But this stuff is just, it is like, I brought so much home with me because I'm like, this is it's like absolutely amazing. And it's just one of those things where like you go to a new place, whether it is the Chihuahua or the Amazon or the Arctic, and you find that one plant and you're like, this is now my new most favorite friend. It was the one plant like I needed to identify out there pretty routinely and consistently for just bindings, and it smells good. It's just absolutely amazing. That's my Mata Mata pitch for anyone on the Amazon that's watching. Thank you for the Mata Mata. It's the best stuff in the world. But
Donnie is sponsored by Mata Mata, so take that with a grain of salt. He's getting paid to say all this.
Yeah. Oh man, I love that plant. I love it.
It's a really interesting thing because like I'll have people come up to me like, you know, oh, so you know all the plants, and I'm like,
No,
I know like maybe that much, I would say.
yeah.
So.
The thing is, you know the properties of the plants that make great cordage. You know the properties of the wood that works best for hand drill and bow drill. You know the properties of the stone that make the best flakes. So that's one thing I try to teach is like, you don't have to know 1,000 plants. It's good to know what you can eat, and medicinal stuff comes in time, but just understand the properties of what a good friction fire set is. And then you just go out and experiment and say, all right, this looks soft, this looks hard, start cranking. You know, this burns quick, this burns slow. It's the properties of the things that I think we should really kind of use as our initial phase into kind of that bushcraft, survival, primitive skills approach.
That's a really good point. And yeah, ultimately, I think that's the natural progression. You figure out what you're looking for, and you're like, okay, that's not what I was looking for, but it looks close, so I think it'll work.
Exactly, man. Exactly. It's a crazy world, man. But I did one other show since Mud, Sweat, and Beards, and this was way out of my wheelhouse. But I did a TV show with Cardi B, where I did a TV show with Cardi B where I brought her and this gentleman by the name of Afion Jackson out for a day of survival, teaching them how to build shelters, shoot bows, purify water, forage. And it was a pretty amazing experience just because, like, you know, she's a rapper, international star in many forms. And then there's me, who's there in sandals and like my dirty green hat. But it was pretty amazing to work with her and Afion and just kind of expose them to some outdoor things. And I was really surprised in how much they tried, how successful they were, and just like their own personal kind of lifestyle and different things, how it conveyed into that survival world. So that will be coming out, I think, around Earth Day. That's when myself and Cardi B ventures into the woods, and Cardi B tries how to survive. So it was a pretty amazing experience. But that's, in my mind, that's really what it's about. People from all walks of life. I don't care if you're the most, you know, famous rich person in the world. Like, if you want to get a little wild with nature, there's people out there that will show you how to do it and kind of guide you in that process. So I felt pretty lucky to be part of maybe her personal process into, you know, going out there. Just as she was saying, you know, she wants to go on more hikes with her kids and her husband, and she kind of brought it down to kind of more one-on-one sort of, you know, conversation. She likes going out on hikes in certain venues. And this was a good opportunity for her to kind of learn that.
That's awesome, man. Did you play your didgeridoo for her to rap over? Or,
you know, I was thinking about it, and I was like, I don't know. We're gonna just keep it. I'll bring a couple bows and some, you know, rabbit jerky, but I don't want to push the limits quite yet.
Yeah. Well, I think one thing that I really always have admired about you, and something I noticed right off the bat, was, and you kind of snuck it in there, you didn't even highlight it. It's like, there's people out there. You didn't say, I'm the one that will show you. You are constantly like promoting and having this idea that, you know, there's tons of different outdoor instructors and schools and different ways to learn. And I think it's really admirable that you spread that message, that it's not all focused in one place, and there's a lot of places where you can learn these skills and get these experiences. Yeah,
I think that's important. You know, it's a very unique community, and I think we should support each other more in our personal ventures. You know, people ask me to share their stuff, I share their stuff. Someone's running, like Teresa Camper's running a class on fox tanning. Like, we should be doing that. And promoting somebody else doesn't take anything out of my mouth or take anything out of my pocket. That's not really what it's about. It's, you know, you get a message from someone saying, hey, I live in the East Coast, you know, do you do classes? Say, I don't do classes in the East Coast, but here's 3 or 4 people that do, check them out, that sort of thing. So, I mean, we should do that. That's how you build a stronger community, and you don't isolate people. But with that, though, it also comes into, you know, promoting and sharing stuff of people that I personally, you know, or I've worked with, or kind of can vouch for in a certain way, because there's quite a few folks out there that run classes and they do different things, but they just don't kind of have it all wired together. It could be hazardous in certain ways, or there's just a lot of different things that you just want to make sure if you're recommending someone that they kind of know what they're doing, they're of good sound body and mind, and kind of go that route.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And a big piece of it is definitely, like you're saying, the safety aspect. You want to make sure that you're recommending a safe and nourishing environment, because obviously there is some inherent danger to the things that we do. One awesome thing that I saw come out, I don't think you've mentioned it, is that the Big Bend movie came out, and that's, you know, based on an area where we were teaching classes down in Texas, the Big Bend National Park's beautiful area of the country. Definitely recommend checking it out. But the movie is called Big Bend, and you actually landed a spot in the movie when you weren't necessarily expecting to.
Yeah, that was a unique opportunity. But yeah, I was this was like June, July 2019, and I was hired to be the set medic and safety coordinator, just because we were super remote. So to look after the entire cast and crew and walk different lines and clear snakes and monitor weather. So a kind of different side of what I do. But yeah, maybe 20 days in, director comes to me and says, hey, we've got a role. We think it's kind of you. Would you be interested? I was like, yeah, I'm interested. What do I have to say? And he's like, whatever you would say. By the way, do you happen to have a loincloth? I said, I do. I have one in my truck. So before you know it, you know, I was in the middle of the Rio Grande River with a homemade spear, spearing fish, wearing a loincloth, covered in mud. And, you know, long story short, now the Big Ben has gone to the Santa Fe Film Festival, Santa Barbara, Austin. It's been all these different film festivals. And, you know, I've been invited to go to every single one of them, just because I was an actor in a movie, which seems kind of weird, kind of playing myself. But yeah, I mean, I'm pretty excited. The entire cast and crew put a lot of time, effort, and energy into it, and it's nice to see it that it's getting super amazing reviews. People are absolutely loving it, and I just hope it comes out on like Amazon or Netflix in the next couple months, because, you know, it'll be fun to watch it one more time. I've seen the movie. It's a good movie. It's like really a good movie. So I hope more folks can see it pretty soon.
Right on. Yeah, I'll definitely check it out once it gets widely available. What kind of solo trips do you have planned? Like all these things, I know there's kind of other people following you around, or a certain expectation with your adventures. But I know, like deep down inside, you're very interested in kind of exploring on your own. What kind of things are you thinking about?
Yeah, so pretty much at the end of this month, I will have no other classes scheduled. So we kind of open up into that summertime here in the great state, and, you know, all throughout the U.S. So right now I'm just kind of looking at a couple different places to go. Mountainside, back down to the Chihuahua when it's super hot, to really kind of challenge myself there. And then I've been looking into kind of different island adventures. My girlfriend and I were heading to Vieques Island off of Puerto Rico to do some, you know, exploring there and fishing and a whole bunch of things. So I'm kind of maybe shaping in my mind if I can lock down an island somewhere and maybe doing, you know, just a long project out there, even if there's no cameras or anything, just to kind of go and do that myself. I'd like to kind of do that during the summer. So nothing firmly planned, but there's a lot of brainstorming going on right now. But I think the real question is, when are you and I going to go out on an adventure somewhere? You know, we'll grab the dogs, throw on some loincloths, grab some stone tools, and we'll just go, man.
Dude, just hit me up. I'm ready to go. And Willow is as ready as any of them, especially now with the weather getting warm. We've been out just about every day. So yeah, it's that nice season here where it's getting, you know, like 50s, 60s, and you can just be out all day and it's just perfect out.
No, man, the days are getting longer. It's that feeling of like, all right, this is now the right time. Yeah, I'm excited. This past class, I was like, wheels are turning. I was like, all right, what are we doing? We walking across the stick? Like, what's going on? So, yeah, man, let's punch out. Let's go do something. Let's get a little wild.
Yeah, let's get out there, and yeah, we'll think of something, and definitely bring the dogs along and push ourselves to a whole nother level.
Yeah, man, I'm down.
All right, man. Well, this has been excellent experience as always. I always appreciate you sharing your time with me. I know you're incredibly busy, so it does mean a lot to me. The first returning guest on Who the Wild Things Are, Donnie, you're a wild man. Thank you so much for coming on, man.
I appreciate it. Thanks, Ryan. I think what you're doing here is important, just kind of giving a platform to folks and allowing them to share. More importantly, you know, I think it's one of those things when you see people on TV or some of these people on social media, there's an untouchable idea where like, that's not a lot of the people that are kind of involved in this sort of skill set in the community. They're very approachable and obtainable, and they want to engage people and inspire people. And I think you've created that platform where folks can do that. I mean, I've been looking at some of the folks that have been watching, and I've seen a couple of our previous students and people that I know, and I think it's absolutely amazing what you're doing. So I appreciate you, your time, effort, energy, and man, keep doing it.
All right, man, right on. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Stay wild. We'll see you next time.